just for my own little legal media brain, it used to be illegal to record people without their knowledge. And in some countries, I think it still is. It's why prank calls were always, this is something I would have loved to have done a media breakdown on, because prank calls were always never really real. Like when we were growing up and prank calls were the biggest thing, everyone was like, haha, funny, they called someone, and then they were like, hello, I'm not who I am. And they got him so good.
But they thought it was real as fucking idiots.
And what had to happen was the producer had to either tell them what was happening, which I think a lot of the time they would, or call them after the fact and beg them for permission.
Yeah.
Please. Oh my gosh, please. Because otherwise they couldn't use it.
Please. Anyway. Guido Hatzis has to have his content.
What will he do without it? I'm worried, frankly.
All right, Bec Petraitis, welcome to Reanimates.
Hello.
There's.
I've got to stop this. I've been on two podcasts recently, and I've opened with hello for some reason. It doesn't have anything to do with the movie that's coming up.
No, there is.
I feel like people might go, is there a hint towards this? No. But also the movie is very disconnected in itself. So maybe it also is a hint towards what's happening.
It is. We are covering fear.com today from 2002, turn of the millennium. It is a very 2002 movie, I would argue. You know, it's like when you watch Saw, you know, and it's like, oh, this is just seeped in like the time that it was. It's got the same vibe.
It feels like the name of it and the vibe it has would be perfect on a poster displayed at a Video Easy.
Yes, yeah, it's the kind of poster you'd see and be like, hey, that looks interesting, but you never see it.
No, it's the one that sits in the back of the Video Easy and it gets really yellow in the sun. And then you're like, what the fuck was that movie?
Yeah.
You never found out.
It was not well received, which seems really strange. Like I was reading some of the reviews about it and people were scathing about this. Like they really fucking hated it. And I was like, I just don't see how it brings out that kind of loathing in people. Like it's not terrible. Like it's actually like serviceable as a film. It has a lot of good elements. It's got, you know, some poor dialogue, but we'll get into that. But like, I don't think it's an abomination of a film.
I think it's too silly to be scary, maybe. It feels very much like the Ring movie, but I wasn't scared of it.
I think it also came out the same year because they got compared. People thought that this movie was copying The Ring. I think that this actually came out just before The Ring, but they would have been in production at the same time. So who knows?
I think the problem with this one at its core is the premise is too confusing. There's too much going on. Whereas at The Ring, you're like, there's a spooky tape.
Yep.
There's a spooky tape and there is a backstory to the spooky tape, but the spooky tape is the big bit.
It was directed by William Malone, who has worked with Jeffrey Combs a lot. He also directed House on Haunted Hill, as well as 2008's Parasomnia with Jeffrey, and the Exile, which was the episode of Perversions of Science that had Jeffrey in it, which I covered with Tom Lang some episodes ago. Parasomnia was also the last film in 2008 that William Malone directed. So who knows what he's been doing since then? Maybe he just got out of the game.
I hope he's having a good time wherever he's at. Maybe he's having a nice cup of tea.
Hi, William Malone, if you're listening.
I don't mind your direction in the. Oh no, actually, wait, no, maybe I do.
Well, I would say the direction is the least of this film's problems. I would say more so it is the story and the dialogue. So the story is by Moshe Diamant. I am absolutely probably not pronouncing that correctly. Who is, I think, also the producer. And it was written by Josephine Coyle and Holly Payberg-Toroya, neither of whom did very much else.
Every time I see a movie like this, I wonder, because a movie is a big collaboration of a bunch of different people, and it's not necessarily one person muck it up. It could be like a studio coming in and give you a bunch of notes and going, hey, make this more big, make this tiny.
Yeah. On this podcast in general, I try not to be like too unfairly critical because I'm aware of like how it must feel to put so much effort into something and then have it torn to pieces. And, you know, if something is like actively offensive, then fine. But if something just like isn't your cup of tea, or in the case of this, a lot of it has to be taken with the fact that this movie is almost 20 years old now. You have to.
But also, this is 2002 vibes, and I love that. I love that when I watched this, it reminded me of going with my auntie to the video shop to get the scariest movies in the world, coming back, watching them at her house and eating spaghetti, and then going back to my parents' house and them going, why are the children traumatized? That's because I watched the Blair Witch Project for the first time.
Is spaghetti a common movie watching snack?
Okay. No. But I just remembered what would happen? My auntie used to live in like near Chapel Street. So we would go to the video shop near Chapel Street and then go up and get spaghetti from a fancy Italian restaurant and then circle back and eat spaghetti. It was quite nice.
So we already know that the movie is going to be about a creepy website in some way. The fact is, they couldn't actually get fear.com. Apparently, the people that owned that domain wouldn't sell it for, quote, any price. So the actual URL in the movie is fear.com.com.
I'm looking at it. Oh, it's nothing.
I already looked up fear.com and fear.com.com, and they're both not active URLs either, which is annoying because if you're going to have fear.com, why aren't you using it?
Don't park fear.com. I guess they're waiting for someone to go like super big bucks.
Well, at least they didn't go like fear.net or fear.org.
Fear.biz has a certain vibe to it. And I'm kind of sad they didn't. I mean, I would say fear.gov, but that's what the government does anyway. They don't need a bloody URL. It's just boom, got the government. Take it.
Yeah.
Take
that.
I like that because it wasn't like a party horn. It was like a sad tuba.
Yeah.
Blah, 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 blah.
It was a trombone following you at a distance.
Yeah.
We open on Udo Kier.
Mm-hmm.
He's very stressed out. He's at a train station. He's clutching a book. Very spooky surroundings. It's like grim lighting. You know, it's raining. It's messy. It's very grim. There is a blonde child bouncing a ball on the tracks and a dog staring at him. It's your worst nightmare.
Does the dog ever come back?
No.
Okay.
It
was just a dog there. It was unrelated.
He jumps on the tracks to save the creepy child that's for some reason alone in a train station. The train starts coming. Child disappears. And he's hit by the train. Oh, and also his eyes are bleeding profusely. And that is important.
It is important.
We meet one of our main characters in a minute. Mike, played by Stephen Dorff. He's in heaps of stuff. Blade, most notably, I think people would know him from. Stephen Dorff is Mike. He's a cop. He's coming by to investigate. He's interested in a book that Udo Kier's character was clutching, which is called The Secret Soul of the Internet.
And the secret is, it has no soul. The end.
Turns out Udo Kier is Polidori, who co-wrote the book. There's some very fun 2002 era web imagery in this.
Yes.
We see someone logging onto the Fear site. The thing that I noticed most about websites of this era is lots of needlessly complicated interface. So it's like you can't just click on a link to go somewhere. You have to like click on a link that takes you through like a physical, like Doom style fucking maze and shit. It reminded me of you know, the interface in Jurassic Park when Lex has to hack into the mainframe and she has to like fix the security stuff. What's his name? Wayne Knight's character has made this like incredibly complicated interface to try to get into all the security stuff. I'll put a photo of it because I'm not describing it very well.
I feel like it's very funny watching filmmakers because now most filmmakers, like I remember I was watching an interview with Bo Burnham talking about making 8th grade and having it so that everything that's happening on the phones is actually happening on the phones. They are real apps as opposed to what some people will do where they'll comp on something after the fact. But he was like, it's very important to me that this is like legit because it's very distracting when something is clearly not how it works. Whereas I think in this era, no one knew how shit worked. So they were just like, And I think you could get away with it for a long time just having like people doing it. I mean, it was still cringy back then, but it's more cringy now because we're all, you know, I'm talking to you on a computer.
It is very of the time. I think what's funny about it is the website, the Fear site, it makes itself look like a furniture website and then just a bunch of knives pop up on the screen. That's how you know it's a spooky site.
It was a haunted sort of flash site as well, which I appreciated. I was like, yeah, flash sites were spooky. I also liked that there was a subscriber count that popped up. I'm like, this is like a Twitch simulator. I'm getting into Twitch in the moment, as is every Melbourne comedian who is trapped inside. And it's nice to see representation, of streamers, big nerds.
So pretty soon we meet Jeffrey Combs, your friend and mine, Jeffrey Combs. He's playing Sykes, who's very much a New York cop. He is chomping on donuts when we first see him, just shoving them in his gob.
Yum, yum.
He's
yum, yum was my contribution to that. Just then, yum, yum.
Donuts are yum, yum. Thank you, Bec.
Yes. There's lots of good donuts available at the moment. I'm really happy we have got through the frozen yogurt stage of our lives.
And also the obscene burger trend is thankfully on the way out as well.
Obscene burger trend is on the way out. Obscene milkshake, like the milkshakes with stuff stacked on it that were very hard to drink but looked okay.
Ridiculous. So Mike is very preoccupied by weird letters from someone called the Doctor. It's basically an unsolved case. And I love Sykes because he only has a few scenes, unfortunately, in this movie, but every scene shows him to be a very apathetic cop. He's like classic, let the feds take care of it. Who gives a crap?
Yeah.
We soon meet a screaming German student. He comes into the police station. He's got the same bloody eyes that Polidori had. And Mike and Sykes. So they go to the kid's house to investigate. The thing you notice about this film is it's a bit like Seven, the film Seven. It is very dark, like quite literally. Like every shot is super grim, dark. It is constantly raining in this film. I think there's one scene where the sun comes out, but it has been raining and it's still wet. And it's so notable that they mention it in the script where they're like, hey, the sun's finally out. I think it was filmed in Quebec. So in the student's flat, they find a woman dead, presumably drowned in the bathtub. We soon meet who becomes basically our main character, for good or ill, Terry, Natasha McElhone. I also don't know how to pronounce that. Who I know from The Truman Show. I know she's done heaps of stuff, but that's what I immediately recognized her from.
She's in Designated Survivor, which is a show my partner Evan has watched, and I hated. I had to watch. I was like, I can't watch this. I think it's probably fine, but I just couldn't get over how much they said the words designated survivor over and over again. You are the designated. The idea of it is the president dies and he's the designated survivor, so he becomes the president. It's one of those shows that's like, America, we're gonna get through it. Come on, America. I just, stop it.
Wait, so the president dies and then just some guy becomes president?
Well, it was more than that. It was like a lot of people died for him to become president because he was like the guy who couldn't be in places because he was the designated survivor. In that show, she was the first lady. I asked Evan, I was like, is she good in that? And he was like, yeah, I don't think she was bad. And I'm like, because in this movie, Lisa, she's not good. I know the lines she's getting are very bad. Yeah. But the way she's not selling them.
I know what you mean. And William Malone also said something similar after the fact. On having her as the lead, I think he possibly regretted it. So this is what he said about it. He said, I mean, I loved having her in the film, don't get me wrong, but the film should have been rewritten for her instead of being written for somebody who was showing off how good she is at her job. Natasha has this sort of competence and elegance, so you just don't buy that with her. I don't entirely know what he means by that.
No.
I do kind of understand that the role does seem quite different to the way she's playing it, because it sort of starts out as you think that she's going to be this sort of like slightly quirky, slightly eccentric, weird character, but she's quite good at her job, because like
sees what other people don't see or something like that.
Yeah. Like she talks to her cat, and she doesn't answer her phone when it rings. Like she's just, kind of like a weirdo. But that sort of just disappears, like probably like a quarter of the way into the film. But yeah, she's a perfectly acceptable actor, I think. Like she's doing it, and she's not a bad actor. But yeah, I think wrong for this. Well, in this film she works for the Department of Health, and
oh boy, yeah,
which again, as the film goes on, makes less and less sense. But
yes, it does.
the bath woman, she also has similar symptoms to the German kid. And I know this is a film, but whatever. It's very annoying that the person who works for the Department of Health goes into a crime scene in which she thinks there might be an Ebola type virus, and she is wearing zero PPE. She isn't even wearing gloves when she handles fucking evidence.
She's holding a piece of evidence and she goes, "Do you have a plastic bag?" And the guy goes, "That's evidence." And she goes, "Yeah."
Yeah. She's not even wearing a mask. I mean, I know that masks are hard in movies, but nobody's wearing gloves or anything. It's but then
it does come in. I was like, oh, maybe they're just going to ignore that Ebola could be sort of airborne. But then later, people do come in masks and things.
Yeah,
because they suspect it's Ebola. Still not masks. They still walk into another crime scene where they suspect there's Ebola.
The very next scene is at the police station where they find the German kid dead in his cell. And some folks in hazmat suits come in to get the kid's body. And Mike is like, he asked the very valid question of like, should we be wearing those suits? And Terry's just like, oh, we're probably already infected. All right, cool answer. That's comforting.
I do not trust this Department of Health to take care of me. That was very strange. But also, I guess we're hyper aware of it at the moment. Once again, this is that thing of 2001 versus now.
Yeah.
People could just throw a line out like that, whereas now we're just like, get the hand sanitizer, everyone. Quick, lockdown.
They were more worried about anthrax in 2002, I think, probably.
Yes. Whereas we're opening deliveries 24/7, do not care.
No, just breathing in under people's breath constantly.
Yum, yum, envelope.
Yeah, remember the good old days in the early 2000s when you could lick all of your packages?
Why did we decide to do that anyway? When we had invented adhesive, you could just stick together and peel. And we were like, nah, I want to keep licking this.
Oh, yeah, I had to do that the other day. I had to send a letter and I bought an envelope from the post office and I was like, I'm just going to pop it straight into the post box. But it was one of those ones you had to lick. And I was standing there being like, I'm not going to lick it. I had to go back into the post office and be like, can you sticky tape this, please? I don't want to touch it with my mouth.
It's fun to realize after the fact how much we were just putting our tongue on stuff and just accepting it.
It's how I spent most of my 20s, baby.
Hey. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
it's back again.
I make a Zoidberg sound when I'm having sex. That's what I do.
That's the way everyone should do it. I respect that.
That was Zoidberg via Borat.
Yes, that was.
So in the cell where they find the German kid, it is written the German word for murderer and the number 48 in his blood. What's weird is that the holding cell for the prisoners, it seems to be like right in the offices, like the bullpen, you know, like where all the cops are doing admin and stuff. I don't know if that's accurate, but again, it's a film. We'll just let it go. Mike tells Terry that he's a bit of a germaphobe, and she gives him this great advice.
You know you sleep with bugs?
What?
You sleep with bugs.
No, I don't actually.
Yeah, you do. Everyone does. Dust mites. They're in your carpets, in your bed. They look like little lobsters. You know, in fact, they're distant relatives.
You're enjoying this, aren't you?
I just don't get out much.
I can see that.
You sleep with bugs.
Yeah, like that's comforting. Yeah, that's what a germaphobe wants to hear.
And also, like, is that strictly true?
Yeah, I think that at some point we are always covered in some sort of, because I know that, like, you know, we have like mites that live in like our eyelashes and stuff. We're always covered in little guys. They're just doing their business. They don't mean no harm to nobody.
Okay. That's the spookiest thing in this movie, I think, actually.
Take some comfort in the fact that they don't want to harm you. They just want to eat your dead skin.
But that's my dead skin. I was saving that for later.
No, you're not using it. Give it. I want to chomp it.
It's my dead skin. How dare you?
Crunchy. So we cut to a man who is taping a young woman who's like, he's got like a video camera. He's taping a woman who's working in like a change booth sort of thing. He gives her the whole, you'd be perfect for a film I'm working on. Come to this theater and we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Terry and Mike are watching the German kids' home movies. Him and the bathtub lady, clearly his girlfriend, having fun, being sexy, playing on the computer. Computer.
I was like, who films themselves playing on a computer? And then I'm like, Rebecca Petraitis.
Yeah, who
you
would do
silly
that?
doofus.
What kind of psychopath would do such
What
a thing?
the hell is that? Yuck.
For the consumption of others. Ugh.
Disgusting.
The German kid, like in the video, he starts like losing it, becomes violent. It seems like he killed his girlfriend. The woman from earlier, the woman who was being filmed by the creepy dude, she does go to the creepy theater, and unsurprisingly, it is a menacing as fuck space. There's like a single flashing fluorescent light that's just like dinging on and off.
The lighting set up at the front where there's just like several lights flashing on and off. How do you even set that up? How do you set it up so it's just constantly flashing? That seems like a pain in the butt.
So pretty soon, as you said, like lights start flashing, Rammstein starts playing, always a bad sign. Nothing good is going to happen when Rammstein starts playing in a movie or in real life. Rammstein are fine. They're usually the harbingers of doom in a horror movie.
I would love to be a harbinger of doom. She says in that exact tone. I'd love to be a bloody harbinger of doom. Oh,
there's a lot of work for harbingers of doom at the moment.
Yeah, that's true, actually.
Yeah.
The other day, I got a Buffalo Bill and it had no bubble gum on its nose. And I was like, this is a sign, but a really specific sign just for me.
What a horrible omen.
It's lovely because it's a Buffalo Bill. It's an ice cream with a bubble gum nose.
Yes.
But then the bubble gum nose isn't there.
What's the point? Even if that bubblegum is shit.
Oh, terrible bubblegum. But I paid for it and I deserve it. Yeah, it just felt like a omen specifically manufactured for me. It felt personal. It felt universe against me personal.
Oh, no.
But I'm good now.
and then a cowboy with no nose killed your whole family.
Oh, my God. That would be a great movie. Oh, no, I didn't get a bubblegum on my Buffalo Bill. Knock, knock.
Oh, no.
The noseless cowboys come. He's come to take your nose.
Gritty Buffalo Bill.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh.
I mean, this isn't going to make sense to international listeners, but basically a Buffalo Bill is a cowboy-shaped ice cream that has a bubblegum nose, like a gumball for its nose.
I can send you this photo if you want to post it. Look at this haunting image. Isn't that fucked?
That's so horrifying.
Yeah. And I was just looking at it going...
It also doesn't even look like there's space for a nose, because so it's like they did it on purpose.
To be murdered by a cowboy without a nose who is hunting for noses. Now that makes sense to me.
Who saves the day? The paddle pop lion, obviously.
Absolutely. That's a lion there. And then everyone has a gay time, which is an ice cream and a good time.
Yeah.
But
it's a delicious ice cream and also a good way to spend your day.
It is. True.
So the camera guy knocks out our lady. Screams follow. It's a bad time.
Bad time.
Terry is getting questioned by, I think, her boss. It is someone called Turnbull. They haven't established that it's her boss strictly, but I assume it is. Yeah. And he seems to have whatever the same thing the German kid has, and he's also gotten rid of his computer. And Terry thinks that's strange. Turnbull goes down to the train tracks, I think, for some reason. He's in some sort of industrial area.
He looked so sad. I was just sad for him.
He did look sad, and he was also bleeding and smoking and being very scared. And he should be, because he starts seeing that same creepy blonde girl that Polidori was seeing. And she seems to be a proper harbinger of doom. Nothing good happens when she's there.
No.
And suddenly his car starts driving itself. And it's careening wildly out of control and crashes violently. Oh, no.
This is the point, I think, where I started to think, and this is not what happened. I was like, oh, what if the ball that the little girl is holding is the dot from .com? But it wasn't. And that would have been super dumb. But I was like, that could have been fun. But it was not.
Is it dumb? Or is it a perfectly acceptable way of finding yourself in this film?
If it did come out that they were like, and then they revealed fear, and then the dot, and then calm, and then the girl takes the dot and she walks around, and she was the logo for fear.com, then actually maybe it would have been fine. Yeah, okay. I'm cool with it now.
Yeah, it turns out she's calm.
She's calm. And she's looking for the fear. Anyway, yep.
What does com stand for? Like why do we have .com? Because I know what
commercial?
Yeah, because I know what .gov would mean. .org. I know that.
I think it is commercial because I think you actually do have to have like an ABN to have a .com. except a lot of people don't. A lot of people just grab whatever .coms they want,
Oh, sweet.
which I don't think they check. .tv is one that keeps coming up, and I think it's like a country.
.tv?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've always wondered what .tv meant, but then, yeah, it would make sense. .Transylvania.
Maybe it is. Now I'm just going to look it up because I need to know.
It's where vampires have their websites.
Oh, it's the country code for Tuvalu. They sell the domains to people so that they can have .tvs.
Oh.
Tuvalu is a tiny island nation of 11,000 people that is cashing in on .tv. Oh, that's so nice. Well, good for them.
Oh, they got a lot of internet down there. That's where you farm internet.
Yes.
Yeah. So they do an autopsy on the bathtub girl, and they're like, it seems to indicate some sort of a stroke, and her pupils are really big and engorged. Her heart is the same. And pretty soon they bring in Turnbull, who, has the same symptoms. So people are dying bloody left, right, and center.
All over the place.
Mike and Terry chat to Turnbull's wife, who said that he'd been, quote, seeing things lately, and that he was always on his computer and that he was afraid of it.
I loved how she didn't really care. She was like smoking a cigarette, just going like, oh, yeah, my husband, he's gone. Oh, well, I guess that's the way the Bubble Bill doesn't have a bubblegum nose, like she didn't give two shits a little bit, which I liked. I thought that was fun. That was fun for me.
So the weird website that we saw earlier, it seems to be, which is pretty obvious now, some sort of online show. So the creepy guy, he has his viewers, his subscribers, who are watching him torture the young woman from earlier. The creepy man that's torturing her is Stephen Raya, who is a great actor and has a very upsetting face when he wants to. He's in The Crying Game and V for Vendetta. Yeah, he's done heaps of stuff. I know him probably best from Interview with the Vampire. Like, he didn't have a huge role in that, but his role has always stuck with me from that because he's very creepy in it. He's one of the theater vampires that Brad Pitt meets in the second half, and he's got very black, soulless eyes in that film. It's always stuck with me. But he's great in this as well. He's very
he's
creepy.
pretty good.
Here's a little bit of Stephen Raya's his character's kind of whole deal.
Now, you and I share a great responsibility. To them, they've come to watch, but also to learn. We will provide a lesson that reducing relationships to anonymous electronic impulses is a perversion. But here, we offer intimacy. So, tell us about yourself, who you are, where you're from, do you have brothers and sisters, loving parents? Did you dream of being a ballerina when you grew up?
You're gonna kill me, aren't you?
Of course, I'm gonna kill you.
You're a perv if your relationships are electronic. Rot-row.
Yeah.
Whoopsie doopsie. What have we done?
Yeah. It's like,
That's
you can't
all of us.
have real emotional connection in an online space. Oh no.
Oh no, but that is all my connections.
Oh no, can't you? Oh no.
Also, he said the internet offers birth. I was like, does it? Where? What does that mean?
Birth.com.
Birth.com.
Or birth.com.com.
Mike, have a look.
Yep, go on.
Oh, yuck. Birth.com's real. Birth injury. Giving birth. Birth records. No, I'm done. I don't want to look at that.
No, thank you. So Mike decides to get a forensic programmer, I think she's called Denise, to look at the victim's computers. I don't entirely know what a forensic programmer does. I assume they look at computers forensically.
Yes.
Sure. At home, Terry is watching the German Kids Home movies. I do like the moment when she's got like her big, fat, lovely squish face cat, and she's like, "Turn around, Benny. I don't want you watching this." And she turns the cat around away from the TV.
And cute. That was cute. I wish there was more of that sort of silly little,
yeah,
don't want you to watch this.
Yeah, it could have been a little bit more levity. So Terry deduces that the 48 mentioned earlier in the German's blood relates to 48 hours, which we can kind of, we kind of guess that, buddy. Come on. We're 2 steps ahead of you. The script
They
kind of
didn't-
plods along a bit slower than the audience.
Yeah.
We go back to Denise's apartment, and I don't know how much a forensic programmer typically makes, but this apartment is huge.
Oh, it's massive.
I
It's
mean,
lovely.
yeah, it's great.
I want that.
And weirdly, she's got her desk like right in the middle of it. Like it's not against a wall or anything. It's just in the middle of this flat. But it's a great flat. You know, maybe we should all be IT nerds. Then we'd be making some mucho dinero.
Yeah, where we
Lots
can...
of Robert De Niro's. She's watching a bunch of shit that was on the various victims' hard drives. So a lot of like violent imagery, chaotic cutscenes. There's a beautiful woman who says, "Do you like to watch?" And then a giant cockroach crawls out of her computer. It's so big, it's disgusting.
It's so gross, and when she splats it, it's actually the worst thing I've in this movie. I wrote bug splat yuck. I would look away. When you see that about to happen, if you're watching this movie, don't look at it. I hated it so much. I was like, ugh.
Bug splat
Bug
yuck
splat
indeed.
yuck.
Yes.
What she should have done was she should not have been trying to fix the hard drive with her super spooky recovery program. Because if it wasn't as spooky visually, like I think it would have been fine. But when it spookily finds fear.com and it flashes across the screen everywhere, I'm like, I just feel like there's a better UI that wouldn't have been as spooky for her. Like just maybe it comes up plain text. But how did she find a website on the hard drive?
Yeah, Stephen Rea is just like, he spends the whole movie monologuing to his victim. And he's basically just telling her that he's a sociopath. That's basically it.
Yep.
So soon Denise starts to see the spooky ball as well that the little girl has.
The dot from .com. Yes.
The menacing egg.
Mm-hmm.
This one melts and turns into a pile of cockroaches. Not a fan of that at all.
No, I did not like.
They call it a live cam death site. I mean, I assume there's stuff like that on the dark web, but you know.
I just remember back in the day, at the very beginning of Reddit, like I used to sit on Reddit back when it wasn't as bad as it is now.
Yeah,
it's still
Nazis.
bad. Less Nazis. When I used to look at Reddit, there was one of the default subreddits was a creepy one, which I've forgotten what it is. And sometimes I would accidentally open one of the posts on the tram and it'd be something horrifying. And that has gone out of vogue lately. And I love that. And I would like that not to happen again. This is a little bit unrelated, but I just would like spooky internet things surprising me. I would love to see surprise, nice picture of a bird.
I remember being young in the fledgling days of the internet, and there were sites like rotten.com, you know, things that were just like, here's a collection of apparently real upsetting images. Like I remember there was also a site that was called like celebritymorgue.com, and it was just a collection of pictures of apparently, you know, celebrities, like you know, photographs of their like corpses, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's, I don't know if that still exists and I just don't see it. I mean, I assume everything exists on the internet now.
Yes. I definitely think a awful real version of this website exists somewhere on the internet. 100%, no question.
Yeah.
But also when we used to go on the internet, there was like the junior version, like my first awful website to look at, like was a very common thing when we were kids.
There was just also less websites. You know,
it's true, and the only websites we had were Funny Junk,
Board. I had board.com. I remember that one very well. Yeah,
I remember cheeseburger.
Imagine trying to explain to a Zoomer like people finding lolcats funny.
We just didn't have much. We didn't have much back then. But also, I mean, they find like those deep fried sort of memes funny. The ones that are just like, bleh. So it's like,
look, I find those funny too.
I find those funny too.
Yeah, like I can totally get behind Zoomer content because it is so deranged. And it's like, why is this funny? You can't explain to someone why it's funny. Like boomer memes, you can kind of be like, it's making a salient political point, haha. Or, you know, lolcats, it's like, oh, a cat's making a funny face and there's a funny phrase. But it's like, yeah, there'll be a picture of like a burger and it says burger. And it's like, why is that funny?
It's just an extension of that random vibe that happened in like, I would say 2005, where everything was like random.
Oh yeah. It's like, spoon, you know.
It's like that, but
purple monkey dishwasher shit. Yeah.
Yeah. And now it'll be like Plunkle Blabby Beep Bopper, and you're like, ah ha 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 ha.
Yeah.
That's good.
So Terry and Mike go to a pub. They're looking for Frank Bryant, who co-wrote the book with Polidori. He initially seems to be passed out in the booth, but he also might be getting a gobby. A woman crawls out from under the table and like sheepishly walks away.
That was the other confusing bit. I think the implication was they were doing something naughty.
But he doesn't seem to be in a very sexy mood when we do meet him. He's played by Michael Sarrazin, and he tells them about how the book is just like a load of shit. Like he just made it up one day. Here's his explanation for what the book is about and what people have taken from it. I didn't understand a fucking lick of it, but maybe you do.
I was driving along one day looking at all the telephone poles and the wires, and I came up with this idea. What would happen if you connected a whole bunch of computers together? You get one big computer, like a supercomputer, a neural net. Anyway, Polidori and I used to spend long nights talking about it. Now, he came to believe that the web could actually receive energy, store it, and send it out.
Energy? What kind?
Thanks, doll. Oh, fuck if I know. Well, I mean, you know, negative energy, magnetic field, psychic energy, stealing your soul, you know.
It's all fantasy, but I still didn't fully understand it.
No. So the internet can store energy.
Yeah.
Is the energy the girl and the dot from .com?
My main concern at this point was, why is Terry still involved in this case? She is not a cop. She works for the Department of Health. This is no longer a health issue.
It's not Ebola.
No, surely this is out of your jurisdiction, buddy. And it is weird that you are being allowed to just tag along on this case.
Whereas at this point, I wrote, I think an AI made this movie because I just felt like all of the dialogue was auto-generated. There's like a random sort of almost what could be read as a romance sort of nice moment. You're like, oh, are they trying to put romance here?
Yeah, there is a touch of that, and it doesn't really work. But Mike takes Terry through like the unsolved case he was talking about. So the doctor in question is Alistair Pratt, who is Stephen Rea, we find out. It's not a spoiler to say that. It's pretty obvious that it's the same guy, we find out. Jeff pops in to let us know that Denise was meant to show up and didn't. So now they're a bit worried about her. Denise is going a bit mental in her flat. She thinks there's bugs everywhere. She's writing on the floor. She's like carving binary into the wall. She's very scared. She's bleeding like the others, and she eventually leaps to her death from her window, landing on the roof of Mike's patrol car just in time. Mike also doesn't really believe that a fear site is killing people. Like, he thinks that someone else killed her. He doesn't really believe that a fear site can somehow tap into a person's worst fears and bring them to life to kill them within 48 hours.
Come on, Mike, grow up.
Yeah. It's the most obvious, the obvious thing.
Yeah, Occam's razor. Heard of it?
Yeah, you're a cop. Do some investigating. It's very clear that's what's happening. There's a ghost in the machine. At the end of this scene, it seems like Terry and Mike sleep together because they hug at the end of this scene, and then the next scene is Terry asleep in bed and Mike leaving the room fully dressed. They
should have put like a thing that flashed up and went scene missing, and then I would have been like, okay, now this makes sense.
Well, they should have at least kissed.
He could have just left.
Yeah, or they didn't even need to be that romance, because there actually hasn't been very good chemistry between them up until now anyway. And that's probably a mixture of the script and, you know, the chemistry between the actors. But Mike goes to Denise's flat, and despite promising Terry in literally the last scene that he wouldn't go onto the fear site, he goes onto the fear site.
Why is he doing that?
It makes you insane. Don't do it.
None of the spooky things, I think, gel very well. And it reminds me, the reason why this reminds me so much of The Ring is because it reminds me of the movie that people watch in The Ring. The VHS, where it's like, you know, the watery hole. No, what is it? Oh my God.
Well.
What's the well? It's a well. Hole, the hole where the water is. Samara and like the chair, but all of those things, the mirror, all of them eventually had some sort of meaning. They seemed random at the time, but then they had some sort of meaning. As opposed to this movie where all the spooky things seem random at the time and are random, and there's not really that much of a connection to the spooky imagery, I think, that's happening.
A lot of women flash up.
Yeah.
There's like 4 different images of women that flash up whenever someone goes insane because of this site. And it's not clear who that's meant to be and why. Because there is a woman who is in the fear site that we find out, she comes into it later. I mean, it is pretty effective. Like, it is all pretty grotesque imagery that is flashing by quickly and is, would be quite upsetting if you were going insane. Yeah. I don't know why he's going onto this site. It's like, I'll just look down the barrel of this gun to see why the bullets aren't coming out. Like, it's going to be bad.
You'd find out. It's a good way to work it out.
And yes, unfortunately, pretty soon, Mike is seeing the spooky ball, the haunted egg. Never a good sign.
No.
So Terry goes to see Mike. He's being taken away in an ambulance. I think he ends up in the psych ward. He's rambling about the woman. And again, Mike tells Terry, promise me you won't go on the fear site. And guess what she fucking does?
Why did they do that?
Oh, these two are made for each other. They're both knuckleheads.
But then watching this once again, I was like, in the Ring movie, did they both also go, I'm not going to do it? And then they did. I don't know if it's here or later on where they talk about fears, like their worst fears are getting them. Is that here or is it later?
It's somewhere in there where it becomes clear that the fear site uses your worst fear against you.
And I feel like that was one thing too many and they didn't need that because I don't know.
For the site to kill you,
Yeah.
Terry goes to see Sykes because she wants to see Mike's files on the doctor case. And in the file, she finds photos of a woman called Jeannie Richardson. And again, Sykes is just so over it. He's like, fucking artist model my ass. I'm like, she's dead. Can you be nice, please?
It reminds me of that. Have you seen the Wendy Williams clip where she talks about the TikTok person and then says that he's dead?
Oh, God.
Very much those vibes.
So incongruous, yeah.
Jeepers creepers.
So Terry goes to see Jeannie's mother, who shows her a photo of Jeannie when she's young. And it's the creepy blonde girl with the ball.
Oh my God, what?
She also said that she was a hemophiliac. I'm not super sure why that comes into it.
Well, where it comes into in my head is she also says that she used to let her child play at an old steel mill.
Yes.
And she was a hemophiliac. I'm like, why have you done that?
That's the one thing I took away from this scene is like there's this whole scene of this woman who's like lovingly talking about her daughter. And then Terry gives her a bunch of photos that are, I think, like captured from the fear site. And she's like, tell me if you recognize any of these places. And then Mummy's like, oh, this one is an old steel mill. Jeannie used to go there as a child. Why would you let your small hemophiliac child play in an old steel mill?
It's so wild. Why would you want to go to an old steel mill at all?
Yeah,
don't go to an old steel mill.
She was like this dainty little girl with like little lace gloves and stuff. Like, why does she just want to go and bounce a ball at a steel mill? Like a little, I mean, it doesn't help like that she's like white blonde hair, little white dress. Like she looks creepy enough as it is. Imagine you're like, I'm going to go check out the old steel mill, see if it's spooky. And then you see this like little ghost girl bouncing a ball by herself. Even before she died, you'd assume she was a ghost. And of course, Terry, being curious little bean that she is, she goes to the old mill, finds a homeless woman who advises her that she, quote, is in the water. I don't know why there's just like this weird pool in an old steel mill.
Yeah, I think it's just like flooded.
Yeah, it must be.
I was also trying to work that out. And also it was just real gross water. And she's like, it's me from the Department of Health. Time to dive in. No, nothing on my face, just in as I goes.
It is because she believes that finding Jeannie's corpse will stop all of the madness. And she does find it. She finds it pretty easily. It's any wonder that the cops didn't find it. Maybe they didn't care.
Here's my question. Does this happen in the Ring? Don't they find Samara's corpse in the water?
Yeah, I think so. Actually, yeah, because I think that's part of. I think that's part of the mythology in the Ring as well, where they're like, if we give her a proper burial, she'll stop haunting us. Yeah,
yeah. So when I saw this, I know I keep comparing it to the Ring, but it just has it ticks so many bits of it, except it didn't scare me intensely as a child for 7 days.
No, Mike, he escapes from the hospital. He goes to Terry's place. They go to the morgue to have a look at Jeannie's body. The morgue is weirdly dark. I would have thought that if you were performing an autopsy, you would need good light. It's something I always notice in horror movies. It appears that the doctor has already performed a sort of autopsy on her. She's got all the scars and stuff. And in her body, they find, this is something I found quite creepy, which was quite effective. In her body, like within her guts and such, they find a lipstick holder with a note in it. And it says, the guilty must be punished. And there's an address. So it appears that Jeannie swallowed it before he killed her so that she would be able to get revenge in some way. They go to the address. There's a lot of fun props here, a lot of creepy shit. I was taking a lot of notes for my Halloween party that will happen this year, hopefully. Real nasty business, but fun fact, there's a lot of like cut up but preserved bodies on display here. And those are actually apparently from the collection of Gunther von Hagens. And he's the guy that did the Body Worlds exhibits that went all around the world. It came here about 10 years ago, I think. He's the guy that. Yeah, he basically like preserves bodies like in plastic sort of. I think it's called plastination. And he would exhibit like the cut up bodies, like sliced directly in half and stuff like that to show you like.
Were they real bodies?
Yeah. But they've been, like preserved in such a way, like basically like bodies sort of like dipped in amber in a way. Yeah.
Yeah. Like a resin. I mean, resin pours are the big thing right now. Everyone out there will have had a resin kit at some point during the last year. It's like resin.
I like resin. I love watching a resin pour video, and I haven't gotten into resin just yet, though. I haven't been able to get my hands on a kit. They're too expensive. So Mike calls Sykes in for backup, but he's busy. He's not super interested because he's playing cards in a chip shop. Yeah.
Phenomenal work.
Love that. He's doing a great job as this like really jaded cop. Here's just a little clip of what Jeff's doing here.
What? Better be important.
Psych, I need your help.
What? I'm winning here.
Look, I found the doctor.
So? Call the feds.
Now, there's no time for that. I need backup.
All right. Where is it?
The doctor is still monologuing to his captive victim. It's just all he's doing. Thankfully, Mike and Terry, they find the doctor. They're like, yay, we found you. Not thankfully, he's already killed Sykes and hung him up on the wall. Boom.
Come on.
So we don't have Jeff anymore. Why would he go alone? It's almost like cops are dumb, but only in movies.
Good point. Well made.
There's a whole, I guess, a fight scene. So the doctor shoots Mike.
Yes.
Terry stabs the doctor with something, but then the doctor stabs Terry in the neck with a needle and straps her to the torture device. But then Mike is like, I'm going to use the site against him. And he opens fear.com.com and he opens it so that the doctor can see it so that Jeannie can get her revenge. I mean, of all people who should have known not to look at the website, the doctor should have been the absolute first.
And he called him a few times. He had every opportunity not to look. Because I've been doing a bit of writing narrative stuff lately. There's a big thing to not write anything where you can go, and then this happens, and then this happens, and then this happens. And this scene was very, and then he gets shot, and then she stabs him, and then he stabs her.
Yeah, so as far as I could tell, his death is very different to everyone else's death who has been looked at the website, because I think the idea is that, Jeannie kind of like lives in, or her ghost lives in the website.
Yeah.
And, when faced with the doctor, she was just like, yes, the one person I wanted to kill, and just like sort of brought him into the internet. But I also don't know why she wanted to kill anybody else either.
No.
Like if she was only trying to get revenge for the doctor, why did she kill like the German kid, Denise? I thought she was the villain this whole time.
It would be cool if people looked at the website, she got all up in them and she was controlling them and they were bleeding because they were like, I don't want to go that way or whatever, because she was trying to get them to kill a doctor. That would have been fun. It was like, why would I want to kill a doctor? Such a good, upstanding member of the community. Like if it was a possession thing. And then they end up, hurting themselves because they know something's wrong or something. Maybe that's it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a confusing premise. It reminds me too of that Buffy episode that I haven't watched in a long time, where there's the spooky demon on the internet. Do you remember this? It's like,
no, I don't remember this one.
It's like season 2. There's an internet demon who gets in the internet. Hold on 2 seconds. Let me just get my Buffy Watchers guide that is accessible at all times.
You just had that on hand.
Yeah, I was just staring at it as I was talking to you. I'm like, I desperately just want to know what it was about. A demon gets put in a book and then they scan the book. That's what happens. They scan the book they digitize the book, and then the demon gets in the computer.
Oh no.
Yeah, and then the demon sort of becomes like a robot guy. Oh, he builds an online relationship with people. See, that's fun. Whereas like this could have been that. This could have been like a spooky website where like a ghost is talking to you on a website and then gets you to do things. And maybe these movies exist, these spooky website movies, but there was just too many other things going on.
There is a film, a recent film from the last few years called Unfriended, which is similar to that.
Oh, really?
It's really good. It's a movie that takes place entirely in the screen of a like a Zoom chat.
That sounds good. That sounds like up my alley.
It's really effective. I think it's on Netflix. I highly recommend that. Not to say that this isn't that fear.com isn't good as well. It's a film.
It's kind of nice. I've watched worse things.
There's a lot of fun imagery. It's very early 2000s, but it still is a bit of fun spookiness. Mike dies, but he's a hero, so it's all good. We end on Terry, who is being sad in her flat, and she gets a phone call, but it's just static. And she's like, I guess we're meant to be like, Mike is in the machine now?
Oh, is that what we were supposed to think?
Well, because like the music didn't imply that it was meant to be a spooky moment.
No, she just turned around and was like, well, guess I'm back to sleep with the cat. And I thought that was nice.
It was nice music. So I was like, oh, it must be Mike. You know, his energy is in her phone or something.
Then wouldn't she have just reacted and gone like, hey, Mike? That would have been something.
Yeah. Because I think that if it had been the idea that the ghost was still in the machine, then there would have been, spooky music. She would have been scared, whereas she just kind of goes back to what she was doing. So it was unclear, and we are having to make our own assumptions.
And then she never had any problems again with the internet, and that was the end.
No, the internet's been all good since then, I think. Like, I don't think anyone's had problems with the internet since then.
No, I don't think so.
And that's the end. That's fear.com.
The end.
Yeah, I would say it is not entirely without merit. I would say its main problem is probably the script, because a lot of the visual stuff is quite effective for its time. Yeah, it does have that 2000s new metal music video vibe that Saw had.
Yeah, and it's kind of nice. I don't know. When I watch a movie like this, I feel it makes me feel weirdly comforted. I'm like, oh, remember this? It was a good time.
Yes, makes me think of a time when I was young and my back didn't hurt all the time. And I looked forward to years ahead when I would not be in lockdown in my house. And so 20 years ago, how I would have been 13.
And I think I was also, and we were both just hanging out at the shopping center, something we don't do anymore at the moment.
No, listening to Good Charlotte, also not something I really do that much.
I think we lived the same life. I was also listening to Good Charlotte.
Yeah. I was definitely a pop punk teen.
Yes, and I was like, no, Good Charlotte's good. You don't get it. The vibe of this is just so, it's hard to hate it because you're just like, it's just supposed to be sort of fun and silly. Like, I don't think they came in with it to make a very serious film. It's supposed to be something you eat your popcorn to. I think when you look at these films and you think about, like, I don't know if it got Razzies or anything, but when you think about films getting those sort of things that are like this, and then you think about the bad films of today where you're like, oh, there's some real stinkers out there at the moment that should know better.
Like this at least had, at least from, outside of the script, I think that this did have a lot of effort put into it. You're right, though, that it won a very complicated series of awards. It did win Worst Film at the 2003 Dallas-Fort Worth Film Critics Association Awards, but it also won Grand Prize of European Fantasy Film in Silver at the 2003 Fanta Festival, which I have to assume is not a festival dedicated to orange-flavored soda. It was also nominated for the Grand Prize of European Fantasy Film in Gold at the 2004 Amsterdam Fantastic Film Festival, and Best Film at the 2002 Catalan International Film Festival.
Oh.
So, I mean, that's the thing. Like, it's all subjective. Some people can look at something and think this is the worst film I've ever seen. Other people are like, no, I can see the benefit to this, relatively like low budget thriller thing.
Yeah.
I mean, look, there are people out there who genuinely enjoyed the film Grimsby, which I hold in my heart to be the worst film I've ever seen in my whole life. Like, I cannot stress to you how much I hated this film. And yet there are people who really enjoyed it, including my friend and yours, Martin Dunlop, who I went to see the film with. Yes.
And liked it?
Although he did say that because I was a film reviewer at the time when I was seeing it, and I took him to the screening, and so I had to sit through the whole thing. And he said that what was probably funnier than the film itself was watching my reaction to it because I was hating it so much.
Yep.
I was in physical discomfort from that film.
It's so funny too, just the idea of Grimsby, which I have not seen and did not impact my life at all, leaving such a mark on you. I mean, that's kind of nice in itself. I, as a filmmaker, would be like, wow, I've really made someone feel emotions.
I had the same worst film of all time for about 10 years before I saw Grimsby. And then I was like,
what was the other one?
My Super Ex-Girlfriend.
Oh my God, that was very bad, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. Truly terrible film. I can't stress to you enough, anyone listening, to not watch Grimsby. Like, I know that I talk about films on this podcast that aren't like great. And sometimes I'm like, just watch it, give it a go, see what it's like. Or just watch it. It's so bad, it's good. No. It will upset you. Like it did me, if you care about films. It will leave you with a scar on your psyche. And I don't want that for you, dear listener.
You're a good person.
Yeah, I'm
trying to stop people.
Public service.
I did that with Batman versus Superman. That film I cannot abide by. It made me so angry as well. I watched it and went, I love Batman. Batman was my hero as a child. I dressed as Batman. I went to the supermarket as Batman. And now, what have you done to him?
Yeah.
And I understand. I know all these comic book films are just big soapies with nerdy people in them. But hey, it's my life. It's now or never. I ain't gonna live forever. What's happened? Anyway, fear.com. Good.
You've gone off the rails. For people that are going to be watching this, expecting a lot of Jeffrey Combs, there isn't much, unfortunately. And he has played a cop in a couple of other films around this time. And it's a little bit different to what he's done, which is fine. Like, he's, would have been a sort of middle-aged man at that point. So, those are the kind of roles that men of that age tend to get offered. And he was like, I'll try and do something a bit different with it. And
I think he was memorable. I think he did a good job in this one.
Yeah, I kind of like that he was kind of like a shit.
Yeah.
Because, everyone else in the film is kind of, operating on this. I'm just doing my job, trying to be the best person serious. I can. I'm going to solve this mystery. Yeah, whereas Sykes is just kind of like, I don't give a shit. I don't really seem to care about being a cop. I'm just going to eat donuts and play cards.
Yep.
And you go do your own thing. I'll leave it to the feds.
Respect.
Yeah.
I respect the lazy worker.
Yeah. I respect someone who takes money from the police force without giving them any labor in return.
That is something that we can all respect, yes.
Well, thank you for talking about this absurd internet film, Bec Petraitis.
Thank you for asking me to. I love the absurd internet, so this made sense. I was like, this film is me. This makes yes. I do wish there were more memes in this, but it was before the time of memes. Just a few like cheeky murder meme. Not a single lolcat. They could have thrown like a Neopet sort of reference in there.
Wait, 2002?
Yeah, they were around. They were trucking. But I do look, it felt like a spooky Flash website that also was a Twitch stream 20 years ago.
Yeah, like what was that? What was that? There was like a game where you had to like try to do the maze and you had to concentrate really carefully, but then the spooky girl would come out and scream.
Oh, I don't know that game.
It was very early. It was like, it's like, oh, hey, Dad, do this maze. People say that you can't, finish it. And so like, it's a really intricate maze and you have to concentrate really hard on it. And then really suddenly like a face, it kind of looks like the girl from The Exorcist just goes, ah, and like
I know
scares
the exact
the shit out of you.
clip of the spooky lady. Like, I know that girl. When you said a maze on the internet, my brain, the only maze on the internet I used to do was on the ABC website, which is, it was the children's section of the website, and you were Radis the rat from the Ferals.
Yes.
And you get flushed down a toilet and you have to try and get out of the plumbing. And I was like, that is a spooky maze because it's full of poop. I can't get it to load. I can't find any information about it, but I know I know that is what happened.
Bring
You
it
got flushed
back.
down the loo, and it was a flash thing.
If listeners are interested in things like Twitch and that, comedian Tom Walker does a lot of very, very funny games. I think Trucking Simulator is one he plays a lot.
He does drive a truck, and you can pay money to turn the wheel, and then he has to turn the wheel into mostly walls.
Yeah.
Sometimes into the sea. It's a good time. I would highly recommend that as well.
He's incredibly funny, yes. But you are also incredibly funny, and you have a Twitch as well.
I do have a Twitch.
Yeah, give me some plugs.
You can catch me on twitch.tv/Beckness. I do art. I'll make some clay. We'll have a chat. But also, I've been playing a lot of spooky games. I played Dead by Daylight, if you're into spooky things, which I might be. I played Dead by Daylight, which is a spooky game. I've also been playing Ranch Simulator. Mostly it's just me goofing around. It's hard to explain Twitch to people who aren't on it because it's ludicrous. It's mostly just...
From the outset, if you told someone, come and watch me play video games, it would sound insane. But then you do watch people play video games, and it is oddly fun. And it isn't always video games as well. Like, people are using Twitch for everything now.
Yeah. I use it a lot for just chatting to people. If you want to just have a chat to a comedian and goof around.
A lot of podcasters are using Twitch, and they'll just use it the same way that you would like go onto Instagram Live or Facebook Live or something. Like, it's just another way to interact with your fans and your listeners and such. Yeah.
And it's a good way too at the moment because a lot of people, comedians especially, haven't been having the best financial years.
Nope.
You can support them there and help them out. And it does make you feel like you're doing something and giving something to people if you're actually doing a little show. It's like community radio to me more than anything.
Beckness, BECNESS, I assume?
That is it. And that is me everywhere. You can catch me on Twitter and you can catch me on Instagram there as well. And TikTok.
Beck is also involved with Stupid Old Studios, who are, a whole stable of some of my favorite people, ridiculously talented assortment of people. It's kind of, frankly, obscene.
I don't know how we've done it. By chats.
Yeah.
We set up a fear.com website. We trapped them all inside. There's really good stuff. We've got Gamey Games, the show we make that you can watch. It's on YouTube. You can watch any episode and it's fine. You don't have to worry about if you don't like games. It's really not about games. It's about comedians messing about. I also have a show on there called Media Breakdown, which is about media literacy, where I talk about different things that people used to get wrong when I used to work in the news, and I would be like, oh gosh darn it, I wish I could explain to you defamation. So there's an episode about defamation where I explain why you shouldn't say things online necessarily, but I've tried to make it funny, and I think it is funny. So if you want to laugh and learn, that's our Laugh and Learn web series. And then
it's edutainment.
It's edutainment, and that is not a dirty word, I don't think. It's okay to learn, guys.
Stupid Old Studios also, for people who have gone back and listened to old episodes, also one of the many homes of Andy Matthews and Alistair Tremblay-Birchall, who featured on the Fortress episode, and also hugely funny.
Thank you, Lisa, for having a chat. This was lovely.
Oh, thanks, mate. And as usual, you can follow at ReanimatesPod on Twitter and Instagram. You can also follow Reanimates Podcast on Tumblr and Facebook and on YouTube. Go and check them out on YouTube. I put the episodes up there. I try to do them straight after the release date, but it doesn't always work. But they are eventually there if you like listening to episodes on YouTube, which is, I have learnt, part of the internet.
Oh my gosh.
Yep.
Wait, don't they have spooky websites on that internet?
Sometimes they do. Sometimes there's spookiness. Sometimes there's all sorts of stuff. I'm going to show you some internet stuff, Beck. You're not going to fucking believe it.